Did you watch? I'm sure you did. But did you watch the NFL Combine? Oh, the Scouting Combine with the Michigan M. That's right. 18 players. Rich Eisen out there in all of his amazing blue glory. He was not holding it back from anybody. All the Ohio State fans out there that are Bengals fans had to just be writhing in pain. It was quite interesting for me to watch. I don't know, man. Some of the Michigan players look pretty good too.
Yeah.
Some look pretty good. Mr. Lacey, one of the guys that you were not too fond of, looked pretty good in this combine. I'm just saying.
I was actually impressed with it.
Mikey
Hey, look, I tried not to overvalue the importance of the combine, but yeah, bro. Sanders still, he was solid. he was really solid.
For those of you listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, first of all, thank you. Hit that subscribe button, share us with a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. But I got a picture of Mikey Sanders still right up right now. He ran a 4.47 with a 40-inch vertical leap and looked good in most of his stuff. We had some other stuff going on here. I'm sure no secret to Tim that I'm gonna put this one up there. Blake Corum tied Joe Alt in bench press reps at 27 at 205 pounds, outweighed by 116 pounds.
Yeah, that was sick. I liked that.
This is a guy I wouldn't mind seeing in the middle of our line either. Chris Jenkins, man, he was 4.78 40, or excuse me, 4.91 40. Had 29 bench reps. 6'3", 299, 34-inch arms. Pretty big for a strong defensive tackle like that. But listen, all that said, and I know, listen, Who Dey Nation, I know most of you out there are rooting for the Scarlet and Gray. I got nothing but love. It's the greatest rivalry in football, regardless of what level in my mind. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about Michigan when I'm making no bones about it, what I'm rooting for when it comes to this year's draft. I think Brock Bowers looks good in stripes, cuz.
Mm-hmm. He does. Like I told you last week, I'm running to the podium like a man on fire if Brock Bowers is there at 18.
I mean, you need a tight end, you got him. You need a slot receiver, you got him.
Mm-hmm.
You need a dynamic playmaker, you got him. I know he didn't run, didn't do his thing. He's going to wait, but I'm hearing he might be sub 4.5 at tight end. That's too much. Got to get him. Go get him.
Yep.
All right, we'll get into the show. All right, welcome to Running Through the Jungle. I'm here with your host, Tim Lyons, and Justin Lacey. I am your host, Brandon Herriott, a.k.a. B Dirt. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. We are here all postseason. I apologize for the last couple of weeks. Under the weather a little bit last week. Powered through. Week before that, out for work. Justin did it solo because Tim was under the weather. That COVID hit us a little bit on the Running Through the Jungle, but we are back in full force just in time to go over all of our thoughts on this year's NFL Combine.
Yes, sir. We ready for it, man. It was an exciting combine nonetheless. It's a lot of impressive feats that I didn't think that was going to be that great going into the combine. based off of the performance and the tape that they put during their collegiate career. But after watching them during the combine whole weekend or week, whatever, I must say this. We're gonna obviously going to talk about it, but man, there was some several players that I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know you were like that. Now, there's obviously some disappointments as well too, but nonetheless, we're not going to go into the disappointing aspect of it because the combine is really not. It's really kind of like not demonstrated to perform your best work, even though for some players it might be. But nonetheless, I'm just excited to go into it. Really.
Yeah, I think in some of the other podcasts that you'll see me on out there, we keep reiterating the fact that really the combine is to reinforce what you saw on tape, right?
Right.
So if you saw somebody getting caught from behind a couple times and you weren't sure if that person just had a better angle or this or that, then they go out there and they run a slower time than they thought they were going to. Maybe you realize that's why they're getting caught, or vice versa. Maybe you have a record go down in the NFL Combine to a 4.21. Mr. Worthy, Texas, congratulations, my man. That is floating. But yeah, man, a lot of cool stuff out there. I think we all probably have a little bit different thing that we're looking for when we're watching the combine. I've always been fascinated by the different lens that people look through about what drills they like, what position groups they're looking forward to. Even as Bengals fans, we probably all had different position groups here and there that we were looking at.
Yeah.
With the exception of tackle, tight end, and defensive tackle, because we know we need those things.
Yeah.
So that'll lead me right into it, man. We'll start off the show jumping into some offensive evaluations here for our combine. Tim, who were a couple of the offensive players in this combine that impressed you based upon what you saw out there in Indianapolis?
Well, what's funny is I missed the running backs and tight ends on Saturday afternoon, morning time. I actually missed those guys, but I did come home in time to watch the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. And then on Sunday, I sat here all day and watched the offensive linemen because offensive linemen, it's one of our big things. And for me, I wasn't really paying attention to the quarterbacks, but it was nice to see, Penix out there throwing and Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy, those guys. And the wide receivers, you pointed out some good wide receivers to me, and I was like, that's you're kind of getting onto something. But for me, the offensive lineman was really, the defensive lineman on Friday, of course, was a big thing for me. Then on Sunday, the offensive lineman, I think I paid more attention to the offensive lineman though. Like I said earlier, was for me, I really liked the offensive tackle out of Oregon State, Fasu. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. You guys know who I'm talking about. He was light on his feet, quick.
Falagu.
Yeah, Falagu. That's who it is.
Yeah, nasty too. He's mean.
Yeah, he's
following up a great Senior Bowl too. He had a great Senior Bowl and then followed it up with looking great in the combine. Spot on.
Yeah, and I was watching him. He was, doing great. I was watching Alt, of course, because I'm a Notre Dame fan, and he looked good. And then there was Fatua out of Washington, who was, he looked pretty damn good too. Those are the guys. Those are the glassy.
Fuatanu.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. You know what? I'm gonna feel bad for myself when the Bengals start their season and we get one of these guys that I can't pronounce their last names. So, but yeah, the offensive tackles for me was huge for me. I just love seeing those guys. Especially with the ones where they're like laying on their back and then they got to flip up and go left, right, forward, back, and then they take off to a sprint. It's great to see. So that's what my biggest, my impressiveness for the offensive side of the ball. I know maybe some of you guys are going to say, the skill guys and all this other stuff. Yeah, congratulations to Worthy on breaking John Ross's record. But yeah, offensive lineman for me was just a big day for me to watch that on Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm just glad you didn't curse there trying to get those names out, to be honest.
Right.
But yeah, those are two definitely really good offensive linemen, without a doubt. And I kind of knew you would go trenches. I'm surprised that listen, you can miss the running back, you miss the wide receiver. I think they're still playing the combine on NFL Network right now. That I watched it on repeat. I just put it in the background while I was cleaning. But you know, it is what it is. Let's go to Justin here and see what you got here for this combine. Who did you like on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, no, that's definitely so. I'm going to just stick to the wide receiver group here. Obviously, you got to tip your cap to Xavier Worthy for breaking the record for the 40-yard dash time. That is not an easy feat to do. He obviously ran a 4.21 as the official time, but it was actually 4.22 with tying John Ross. That was the unofficial time. But I'm telling you, man, if you watch him, if you do this overlay and watch the simulcast between when he ran his 4.22 versus when John Ross ran his 4.22 back in 2017, it is the speed may look the same, but it's not. You can just see Xavier Worthy just keep focus. Like he was determined. Like this is him just naturally, just him being that fast is just naturally in his element. His first 40 time was 4.25. And then I thought to myself, dude, he looks faster than that. Then when he
Oh,
ran it again,
and they
and
were all
sure
telling
enough,
him to take his cleats off. You're done. Take the
oh man,
cleats off. And he's like, nah, I'm gonna go get this run.
nah, he wasn't trying to do it. He wasn't trying to hear none of that, man. He wanted to run that again, from what I'm hearing. And this is a guy that I thought of myself to be like, you know what? Hey, if the Bengals have him there in like the mid to late earlier, like maybe second or third round, if he's there and if the value fits for him, which I believe it will, you got to entertain going in and drafting a guy like him just because you need to add some field dimension and speed onto this offense outside of just Jamar Chase. And Xavier Worthy, he just proved just that. Man, that dude is going to increase his draft status just by the 40 time alone. But it ain't just his 40 time. He was able to be sustainable, not only with just doing the sub 4.22s and stuff like that, but he was able to be sustainable throughout the rest of the drills that he participated in. I'm not quite sure he didn't participate in all of them, but he was hell bent on the 40 time and he was determined. Whereas if those that remember their career, I think if memory serves me correctly, John Ross actually got injured after his 4.22 attempt the first time. Then he pulled a little hammy, but he tried to run it again and he ran a little slower. And that was probably due to the injury that he suffered after the first one, but it didn't look the same. And that's why I said they may have ran similarly with the just being fast, and they're both fast guys. But Xavier Worthy's, man, it just looks different. So he was the number one guy on my board that obviously he impressed me the most on the offensive side of the ball. But I'm actually going to give you another one. Lad McConkey, he was so smooth doing the 3-cone drill. Like that is not something that it looks easy because when the players have to they face front catch the ball and turn around catch the ball and then go down the gauntlet and then catch the balls from there. I don't even know if I'm even naming that drill correctly, but the gauntlet is
The
absolutely one of
gauntlet's a
the things.
straight run.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't remember which one was called which, but that's
Yeah.
the one I'm talking about. Lad McConkey, he's a guy that I wish that I would have saw out of Charlie Jones last year during the combine and during the season, translate that on the field, but I haven't seen that much from him to determine that. But Lad McConkey seems like a guy that can actually, his tape during the combine is what I saw when I was watching film a little bit on him during his last season in college football. And I think that will translate well into the pros when he's eventually drafted. And I just think that he can just excel really well. And he can be like the model standard to like, hey, look, if you want to perform this drill, watch that guy. He never lost focus. He never lost balance. He was able to cut up field and then just turn and then just run almost like a super straight line and never broke direction either way. Like he knew what he was going to do this whole entire time. And I was like, man, he ran real smooth. So I'm going with those two guys. Led McConkey, I know it's not really the popularest pick, but he's an under the radar selection that I watch and I'm like, he just probably going to be another fast white guy or something at the combine that people going to try to give the Cooper Cup comparisons to. No, he's actually really good. So I was glad that I got a chance to see him up close.
Yeah, he did look very smooth. Was a good way to describe him. Very polished. Now, Xavier Worthy, electric that he broke the record. He was floating, but at under 170 pounds, and I still have nightmares about John Ross because of those two things, man. I'm buyer beware on Xavier Worthy. I'm like,
bro, somebody is going to take the bait and draft him in the first round. I feel like that's Baltimore probably is going to be looking at that, licking their lamb chops right now, talking about some. Let's pair him with Zay Flowers. Now that OBJ is probably not going to resign or anything like that. Yeah, I just feel like somebody going to take the bait and draft him in the first round based off of that 40 time, bro. I swear, I feel like that's going to happen.
So I'm gonna sprinkle a couple things in here since we have offensive tackle, we have wide receiver. We started the show with me telling everybody who I wanted at tight end. That said, I honestly like any of the top 5 tight ends. Bowers, Sanders, Stover, Theo Johnson out of Penn State, AJ Barner, even out of Michigan. Any of those top 5 guys, if we paired them with a veteran, I'm good. Let's roll it. So that's something we can get in rounds 3, 4 if we need to, right? So I'm not going to focus on that. I'm not going to break down that. I am going to give you, though, I'm going to do running back because no one's giving any running back love out there. And I know I've talked to Tim about this ad nauseum. I think Blake Corum's a great fit. Now we have Chase Brown, Blake Corum. They're both shorter. Blake Corum is a 3-down back. He can block. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think that helps. And he's that guy that's shifty and is strong and can get you that 1-2 yard gain. 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 is no longer just a passing down. But the Bengals talked about wanting home run hitters, wanting big plays. Dan Pitcher talked about that in a couple of his interviews out there. Because of that, I'm going to give you 2 guys. And I know they met with Brian Thomas, junior out at LSU. He ran a 4.33. Yeah, that's great. It is what it is. But my guys are this: Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina, 6'1", 221, ran a 4.39. It looks like he is chiseled out of granite. I like that dude.
He's DK Metcalf 2.0.
Man, he is a bad dude, and look good in the drills, high pointing the ball, catching the ball with his hands. And the way people gathered with him, like that group seemed to be coming to him and like he was a leader, like amongst those guys. I like that too. And then Adonai Mitchell out of Texas, AD Mitchell, 6'1", 235, and ran a 4.34. There's some big boys. Some guys that can win some contested catches. You're seeing cornerbacks now these days getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now you see guys like A.J. Brown, DJ Metcalf, and those kind of body types having good success. Debo Samuel, there's on and on and on. Those kind of guys are having good success. I like those kind of guys. I think it lends you to not be handcuffed to the T. Higgins situation.
For sure.
If you can get one of those guys. But running back, big home run hitter, Jalen Wright out of Tennessee, 11 foot 2 inch broad jump, 4.38 40 time, and looked very smooth in those drills. And then Isaac Guerrero. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I want to say I know who you're talking about, but I don't. I don't want to.
Running back Louisville.
Okay.
No idea.
Ran a 4.33. Is a transfer to Louisville. He ran a 4.33, and also again, pretty big guy. So those are some I could see them going that way because they spoke about home run hitters. So defense, we're gonna run it back. Justin, who did you see this past weekend that you liked in the defensive side of the ball?
Well, before I give my two defensive picks, I do want to kind of go back to Blake Corum because he was actually my honorable mention. So I'm glad you brought him up because it would basically just capitalize it for me with him was because he, he did the bench press reps of 27, and I couldn't believe my eyes that he tied with Joe Alt, an offensive lineman, the top tackle coming out of this year's draft. So that was very impressive. So, like I said, I'm very glad that you mentioned that. But going on to the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to stick with my guns here and then just keep praising Byron Murphy, man. That guy is absolutely insane. I think that he should be the first defensive player off the board, but maybe not. He was a guy that he just tests like a freak athlete all the way around, and he just proved that. I said this on the last show that we did, and I'm going to reiterate that this time around. That if the Bengals see him at pick 18, I know we're talking about Brock Bowers, and trust me, I would love that too. And, reevaluating the tight end group and stuff, but you also need interior pass rush. This guy is like an Aaron Donald level kind of player coming out. Geno Atkins type, even though Geno Atkins was in the 4th round of 2010. But those are guys that can be like real big time game wreckers, and he has that potential to do that. So I think that he may go off the board before you get a chance to pick him, but I would absolutely not be mad if the Bengals were to probably trade up to get him. I mean, I'm just not going to lie to you because if he starts to slide into that 10, 11, 12 area, even if Brock Bowers is still on the board, which I have a gut feeling that Brock Bowers is going to be taken beforehand. You're going to want to say you want to, probably throw a little something at Byron Murphy. Try to go up and get a Byron Murphy, man, because I think that he's like the perfect investment. But I have another guy that I like too, also on the defensive line. He was at defensive end, Chop Robinson. He tested really well out of Penn State. I think that he's a guy that I hope that he slides to the 2nd round because he does bring some element of speed off the edge, something that we were really missing this past season. Even though you got a guy like Trey Hendrickson, that's your anchor and your force or whatnot, I think a guy like Chop Robinson would be perfect for the next wave of evolution that can probably take over when we eventually move on from Trey Henderson. Whether he goes and do other things, wants to seek a higher contract payday or whatnot. Chop Robinson would be a great investment to pair him alongside with Miles Murphy. And then let's say that you have Byron Murphy you added at the addition, then, and in my honest opinion, the defensive line will be fixed. So I do have him, but I do have an honorable mention that I want to bring up too, and it might be on your guys' list, and I'll let you, further illustrate if that's the case. But linebacker Peyton Wilson, he is absolutely fast. He basically just killed the whole entire combine by himself. He didn't run the fastest. I think he ran the fastest 40 time for the linebacker position group, but he wasn't like the fastest. But again, it's not about how fast you can complete these drills. It's about your well-roundedness and how smooth and how much you can just pretty much just take all of these drills and all of these things and just kind of just combine it and put it all together in one. So then when you do perform your pro day and then when you do go get drafted and we see you out there on the field, whether it's preseason and the regular season, you don't look lost. Peyton Wilson, I think, is one of those guys that will look like that he can make an immediate impact if you draft him. Maybe take over somebody that's a veteran starter and he can come into the lineup. The positional value of linebacker is really already low. So why not take a shot at him? You need to look to re-up in the position in future years to begin with, which I think is a sneaky need, as I mentioned. So that's an honorable mention for me. But my main two is Byron Murphy and Chop Robinson.
I love the Chop Robinson reference too, which I believe we met with him, if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
right,
did.
Tim?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me give you a quick hypothetical. Just a yes, no, or a rate at 1 to 10. What you think of this? What if the Bears call you up and say, we'll trade 9 for 18 and we'll give you a second rounder, send us T? You do that. So now you draft 9th and you might be able to get your guy Byron Murphy.
So basically what you're saying is we're swapping positions.
Swap
They're
first
taking over our
rounders,
8th. Got
and
you.
they give
Swap
us a
picks. They'll
second.
give us a second rounder, and that second rounder is going to be a pretty high pick because they also got a
It
second
would
round
be
pick from Chicago.
41.
I'm not okay. So pick 41, and you're still keeping the pick 49 or whatever the pick
Yep.
is that we're picking.
Yep.
Honestly, with the loaded wide receiver class this year, I think you got to entertain that. I think you have to make that decision. I don't like the idea of losing a guy like T. Higgins, but he's going to get one hell of a payday in Chicago. They need receivers. They, whether they're going to reinvest in Justin Fields. Actually, I think they're taking Caleb Williams. I mean, it's just probably like a done deal. But that's one of those decisions where it's like I get a high pick at number 9, and I get to an extra second rounder. T. Higgins was picked at the top of the second round in 2020, and he's already overplayed that value already. I would absolutely do that trade. I absolutely would.
And look at the Bears. They bring in their rookie quarterback.
Yeah. They get a
put
veteran wide receiver.
Moore and T. Higgins with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's
Got
out of the
Khalil
conference.
Herbert and Roshan Johnson at running back.
Yeah. Cole Kmet at tight end.
I mean, that puts the pieces around him to succeed. They're going to need.
It's a tough division.
They're going to need to use something. They got another pick from Carolina, like you said. They can use that pick to get their tackle because it's a pretty deep tackle class.
Mm-hmm.
They can rebuild, man. This could be a win-win for both teams.
Hell yeah, they can rebuild as somewhat of a contending team in a hurry if they were to make that trade. That trade it'll be a win-win for both parties. So I would absolutely do that trade.
There you go, Bengals fans. Be glad that I'm not the general manager because I would give you guys heart palpitations all the time. I would be wheeling and dealing. All right, Tim, give us who you got on defense, my guy.
Hold on. I'm gonna give you my answer because you asked that question. I didn't even get it. I didn't even get to answer the question. I'm trading T. Higgins in a heartbeat. I'm going and getting who I need to get. There ain't no doubt in my mind. That would set us up. I think that would set us up for success this 2024 season, without a doubt. Even with a 9th and then 2 second rounders. Shoot.
Yeah. I mean, you could get at that point in time, you're best available, and you're going to fill your needs.
And
defensive
honestly,
tackle, offensive tackle, tight end, in those first 3 or 4 picks.
Yeah, and in this
draft, a wide receiver.
Yeah, and in this draft, I believe this is probably one of the best classes that we've seen in a long while when it comes to wide receivers, tackles, defensive linemen. And I don't believe that there's a reach. Well, you could reach, but I don't think that there is a reach in the first or second, third round. But I tell you this right now, you give me that deal, I'm like, yep, let's get it done. But anyways, so to my we were talking about what defense in the combine? Yeah, we were.
Who impressed you on defensive in the combine?
So you know what? Byron Murphy had a guy that was right next to him in Texas, Sweat. So they had Sweat and Murphy. I like Murphy, don't get me wrong. I think people comparing him to Aaron Donald is a little bit too much.
I agree.
Because Aaron Donald's a different man.
How about Kalijah Kancey? I think that would be a better comparison for him.
Yeah, that's a better comparison. Yeah. So
great player.
I did like Murphy. Murphy, he impressed me to see that big man moving the way he did, the drills. It was great to see. But like I said, I'm moving to Sweat. Sweat is I had his stats here somewhere, but I don't remember where I don't know. I got so many notes around me, I can't find it. But Sweat's a big man. He's a big dude. It took
363, I think it was, wasn't it?
366.
Yeah,
he's one of the heavies.
Big man. I think that would solve one of our biggest problems in the middle of the field. And even like who knows what's going on with DJ Reader? And I know we still have BJ Hill too, right?
Yeah, BJ Hill still
under contract.
So BJ Hill's still under contract. You put Sweat in there with BJ Hill. or even if we decide to go free agency, and I know Brandon's mentioned his name, Glover
Stewart.
Grover Stewart before. If we can go and get somebody like him, if Reeder doesn't resign, whatever. But Sweat, I liked what he did just to see that big dude out there, And then there was another guy too. Brandon, what was his name? The safety we were talking about the other day. Shoot, I forgot to write his name down. But there was a safety that caught my eye during the combine on Friday.
Where was he from?
That's a heated question. I can't remember. I'm not prepared for this right now, I guess. But and then another one was Fisk. Yeah, Fisk came up. He had a good 40 time. He had some good drills. They compared him to Geno Atkins, actually. And I actually went back and looked at some of his film. That kid, he could be a nice nice in stripes too. And he did impress me in the combine. I don't really have any, honorable mentions or anything. I know you mentioned Chop Robinson. Chop was one of my guys on my list too. I think Chop would be a good addition to the edge rushers. With Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard and Byron Murphy. But those were my guys for defense that I had. We'll see what happens.
I'm about to say the only thing that really concerns me about T'Vondre Sweat is his weight size. Yes, he moved pretty quickly at his weight at 366. He was swift. He was pretty light on his feet. But
he's plugging a hole. He ain't catching nothing.
Yeah, it's like he's got one job, is to plug that hole. But also, if he comes to the NFL and he gets with our coaches, our training, our weight staff, get him a little bit leaner. I'm not talking about him losing 20, 30 pounds. I'm talking about losing him like 5, 10 pounds to get a little bit more to get a little bit of that off of him. And I think he would have a good future in the actual NFL.
He could, but here's the thing. You know that the Bengals graded F- in treatment and training facilities, right?
Dietitian's not the strong suit.
I mean, and one of the things, and I'm going to actually steal a page from Greg Cosell because he made a very valid point regarding this manner. It's not that he's a bad player, but it's the thing is he has to drop some pounds and drop some weight and be able to play effectively in the NFL. When you try to play at that size, that heavy, we already went through this with Tyler Shelvin. People don't remember this. Tyler Shelvin was one of the heaviest dudes of all time that tested at the combine. And there was a reason why he fell to the 7th round when he drafted him in 2020. Dude was too heavy. And the thing is, though, I don't mind getting a guy that big to be right there to stuff the run. But we've seen guys in years past. I remember Terrence Cody coming out of Alabama. The Baltimore Ravens selected him. He was supposed to be the next Haloti Ngata. Everybody said the exact same things that they said about him, like they're saying about T'Vondre Sweat, is that after the combine, he tested well. He was strong. And T'Vondre Sweat, he's strong. He's quick on his feet for a big man. But that sometimes when you get moved off your spot by these big linemen in the NFL, that weight ain't going to really matter, and you're going to be too slow to catch the ball carries at that point, and you got to start dropping that weight a little bit so that way you can play more effectively. And Greg Cosell brought up that they have really good facilities at Texas. So if he wasn't so now it's going to become a question when it comes to the scouting aspect of, is it self-motivation thing that is why he can't drop this weight, or is it that the treatment and the process wasn't already there in place? And with the Bengals, don't get me wrong, he was a guy that people liked, and I even like too, and I still like. Don't get me wrong. Like if he's there in the 2nd round, I'm taking him. You know what I mean? But if the Bengals are sitting here with problems with their training facilities not being up to par and stuff like that when it comes to the dietitians and all that, then I don't know if I want to take a chance on that as a draft pick, especially in the 1st round with all that matters. But I do agree with you. He's an interesting prospect, but that weight size, that kind of matters a little bit to me, just to me personally, though.
I don't know. He kind of, believe it or not, and I know he probably had like 40 pounds on this guy, but Vince Wilfork, that's what he kind of reminded me of. And I think Vince Wilfork was like 325 when he was You know,
What if he goes to
in
the
the
Patriots and
NFL.
becomes the next Vince Wilfork, bro? What if he
Yeah,
comes to the
you know,
Patriots?
and I
That would
understand
be
your concern
crazy.
with, with our nutritionist and dietitian and everything, but hey, we never know. That's my
Facts. It's all a crapshoot.
personal view.
It's all a
Yeah, it
crapshoot.
is.
So
All
yeah.
right.
It is.
Well, we are well past where we need to take a break here from our sponsors. I will say this before we go out: the two safeties that I have talked about, Cameron Kitchens from Miami and Sion Vaki from Utah. I like that
Vaki
dude
from
too.
Utah is who you and I were talking about.
He's tough. He's tough. But we're going to take a quick break here from our sponsors. If you haven't smashed that like, subscribe button, you haven't shared us with a friend, go ahead and do so now. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We'll be right back. All right, we are back here at Running Through the Jungle. Getting ready to wrap up our defensive takes from the combine. We've heard everybody but myself, even though I did kind of start the show off talking about Mikey Sainristil and Chris Jenkins. So I'm going to tell you, we're going to argue about defensive tackles. I'm going to tell you Chris Jenkins is one. And man, do I keep picking good names too, Tim. Rook Aurora.
That's a row.
Aurora. Yeah, whatever. 6'4", 290, 4.9, 40, 9'8" broad jump, 34-inch arms, keeping bodies off of him. I thought he looked really smooth and fluid in the drills too. Didn't look like he was lumbering, I would say, like some of the guys did. I also thought the same thing about Chris Jenkins. I'll give you one other name in corner play. I liked Kamari Lassiter. I thought he looked good. I liked his length. I liked his 3-cone drill. Was the best in the combine this year at 6.62. I thought he looked really fluid. I thought he had good ball skills. I liked him. And if you still don't think Mikey Sainristil still belongs in the second or third round, by the way, I'll leave it at this. Go watch him do the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like a wide receiver, which he was when he came in. All right, so that's our combine thoughts on who impressed us. So we're going to transition now into what did those thoughts mean when we start analyzing our Bengals? In what way, shape, or form has this kind of changed your perspective on what the Bengals should do in free agency versus the draft, vice versa, who to hold on to, who to start transitioning out of? Like, what did what you saw in the combine mean for the way you're going to treat the rest of the offseason? Justin, I'll flip it over to you.
For sure. I think that, the importance of the combine is absolutely world renowned, that this should be a bigger deal than people think. And I know we try to minimize underwear ball because we think that's the underwear Olympics. Don't read too much into these numbers. But the reason why we do read too much into these numbers is because we want to test people's athletic traits and their ability for when we get ready to draft them. Believe me, if somebody tested really bad, we will be talking about it, and they're going to probably be off several people's draft boards. So let's not look at this whole thing as far as like devaluing the combine itself. And we need to kind of like push it up a little bit more. And quite frankly, we're entering in a golden age, or it's really not golden. We're entering a different era in time now where college athletes are choosing to opt out of the combine and just other things like that and all together. We didn't even see Brock Bowers. I was hoping that Brock Bowers was going to test during this combine, and he didn't. So with that being said, it does kind of a little bit change how I approach the free agency aspect when you think about the Bengals. Um, that it makes me think that trying to fulfill the interior of the D line is a little bit more important, even though I already put that as my number one need, as far as needs go for this team. That becomes even more concrete with the way some of these defensive linemen tested like freak athletes. Let's say in your hypothetical scenario that you did orchestrate that trade with the Chicago Bears. You swap, first round picks, go from 18 to down to 9. Now you thinking to yourself, man, am I going to get too cute and draft, Byron Murphy because I think he'll for surely be there? But guess who else can be there? Joe Alt, the best tackle out of the draft coming out of Notre Dame. If he's there, will you take him? So now you're debating on that. Well, if you go approach free agency with the understanding that you have to really invest in this position, whether if you shell out cash and get a Christian Wilkinson, whether if you sign a Leonard Williams, Sheldon Rankins, even though I see that he might be resigning with Houston, whatever the case it may be, you got to invest in that position a little bit more concrete now, and don't wait on this hopeless fever that somebody slides or falls down to pick 18, because people are more aggressive than the Bengals, and that they will trade up and give pick the whatever picks that they want. Oh, and the Bengals have never shown that aggressive approach to be able to trade up in the first round, but they will trade back and collect more picks. So I think that it does give me the ideology of approaching it with a little bit more aggressiveness coming in free agency, which starts next week, but also in the draft, based off of how some of these players tested. Again, like I brought up Chop Robinson, I want to ensure that if he starts to slide and he's right there at like pick 30, 31, that I'm just hoping and praying that the 49ers or the Kansas City Chiefs do not take him. And that way he's available at the first round of day 2, and I can perform my magic and try to get him.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I know I've said we need draft capital, we need draft capital, we need draft capital. We also need impact. And it brings me back to one of my favorite quotes of all time. Tim's probably going to roll his eyes when I say this. Look, he's got his hat pulled down. Hope is not a strategy. Right? You can't hope somebody's going to fall, right? If you think there's a chance they're not going to fall, go get your guy. Period. Mm-hmm. Point blank. If it might cost you a 6th or 5th rounder to move 3 picks, or a 2nd rounder next year to move 8 picks, 6 picks, whatever it might, whatever that, not, if it's not egregious, we're probably looking at maybe jumping 3 or 4 spots. We're not going to be giving away a 1st and a 2nd. You know what I mean? Like from 18 to 15, you're not going to do that. So I would look into that if we got our guy, if they know who their guy is. Tim, same question to you, man. How did this analyzing this combine change your thoughts about how to handle this offseason?
Like I know what our needs are for the Cincinnati Bengals. Is it going to be who of us to go and get a right tackle in the first round? To go get a tackle in the first round. It could, because there are some good tackles out there. There's some good defensive tackles, defensive linemen out there. Some good a deep wide receiver draft. Do I think that we're going to draft a tackle that's going to fill in day one? I don't think that would be the smartest move for the Bengals. I think we should go out and get a veteran right tackle to fill in for a year, or whatever. But this draft, it just kind of makes you get second guess of what are we doing with T. Higgins? That was our thing last week. Well, it's still my thing this week. I'm going, well, we could get Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, 6'4", big dude. We go out and get Leggett. That would fill in the T. Higgins, the T. Higgins position. It kind of makes you just look at everything and start thinking. Like for me, last year we double dipped in corners and we double dipped in wide receivers in the draft. This year, I think we're going to double dip in. I'm going to say running back, possibly running back. I think we're going to draft 2 running backs. But we also might double dip in tight ends, or we might double dip in wide receivers again. I don't see us drafting a cornerback this year, or maybe. But I see us, of course, we're going to be looking at the tackle positions and the defensive line positions. But it just makes you think about, as a fan and as somebody that invests our time in doing what we're doing today, it makes us, this draft is like probably, I want to say it's probably one of the best drafts I've seen in probably 10 years. That's what I'm going to say. 10, 15 years. I don't know. I don't think there is a reach in this draft. You can reach, but I don't think there is a reach in this draft. I believe all 18 Michigan Wolverines are going to get drafted before the fifth round. So this is a great draft.
That's what I would think of.
Yeah, it is. But it does. It makes you just think of what are the what ifs. And I know Brandon said, hope is not an option, blah, 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 whatever.
Hope is not a strategy. It's definitely an option.
Whatever.
It's always on the table.
Yeah.
As Cincinnati Bengals fans, we had this high hope last year. Believe it or not, we had this high hope last year, and the strategy didn't pay off for us because Joe got hurt and all this other stuff. This year, I think the Bengals are going to be, I won't say they're going to be aggressive in the draft because I've never seen the Cincinnati Bengals trade up to get somebody in the draft. I don't know. Can you guys remember the last time that we actually were aggressive and traded up to get somebody in the draft? I can't recall.
The only thing that I can recall is that, and it wasn't really a trade up. I mean, they traded up in the second round and grabbed Cam Taylor-Britt. They traded up a few spots from the back end of the second round and trade up to pick 60. But
what I'm saying is in the first round, like a big trade up in the first.
Yeah, I can't recall a situation that the Bengals have done that. Yeah. I mean, there might have been, a time before I was born or when a time I was a little taller and I didn't care. But no, I do not recall a time where the Bengals were aggressive in the first round.
Here you go. CBS Sports has the answer for you. The Bengals haven't traded up a single time in the first round of the draft. And
not surprising.
Over the past 25 years.
So, are we going to see it for the first time in 25 years? I don't know, but, I'll stop rambling on. But, yes, this combine and this draft class is giving me high hope that we find somebody that's going to fill in and push our Cincinnati Bengals closer to a Super Bowl.
So that's a great segue into my take on this, by the way, because I had a lot of hope going in last year too. I have a lot of hope going into this year. It's not really what I mean by hope. When I say hope is not a strategy, that means when you're trying to do something strategic, I'm not talking about optimism. I'm talking about wishing. I hope he falls to us. I hope he falls to it. You can't do that, man. You just got to stay even keel. Do this, do that. If you want somebody that bad, go get them.
Yeah.
What I'm going to say is this, and I said it a few weeks ago. We have to get some veteran backup in positions. We have to sign somebody at tight end. We have to sign somebody at defensive tackle. We have to have somebody on our roster at right tackle with some sort of a veteran presence, whether they're going to start or whether they're going to back up, platoon, whatever it might be. We have to have those bodies in the building. But in round one, when you look at a really good draft this year at wide receiver, a really good draft at offensive line, and a good draft at defensive line, you can't draft somebody in the first round when you are trying to push for a Super Bowl that's going to be a 2-year project to get them to be an impact player on your team. No disrespect or dig here to Myles Murphy. I think Myles Murphy is going to be an excellent pro. But you knew you drafted somebody who had raw physical ability and wasn't polished. He had one rush move in college. We talked about it when we drafted him last year. This year, you've got to get somebody that you can put at one of your spot. There's too many openings that you can move people into. You can improve in corner. You could even improve in linebacker, I think. You could definitely improve on either side of the line. Offensive and defensive line were both not good last year. The defensive line was downright wretched. So if you look at those things, you could improve in safety. There's too many places you could make an improvement on a team that if Joe Burrow's healthy, I have no doubt that we have, every chance, every ability to beat anybody in the league. We had a team that could have beat Kansas City. Hell, we almost beat Kansas City with our backup quarterback. We have to hit in the first round. And I would say this, out of our first 4 rounds, 3 of those players, maybe not all starters, but 3 of them have to make an impact this year, not 2 years from now. That's my takeaway on this combine. There's too many good players at positions of need for us. So that's my take. You guys, any thoughts you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I would absolutely say, in Miles Murphy defense, that's what you said. With the Bengals strategy of they went off the strategy of drafting the guy a year early because they knew eventually he was going to be the successor to who we already have in the lineup. Think of the Dax Hill pick.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Murphy was that too, which was not a bad strategy at all. It's just you gotta have the guys that's in the lineup producing. And sometimes what happened, like this past season, is guys are not producing that dude, we went into last year thinking that this tackle or our defensive rotation line was deep. And then you see Joseph Asai not getting on the field. Zach Carter's not playing like up to par like we should be seeing.
And if you listen to Lou Anarumo, it's obvious that Osai was hurt.
It was, and he did go out of his way to give Osai a lot of props to that. He's been in the training facility, working out, doing better, which was shocking to me because I thought that he was in the doghouse, and I
think he's playing hurt.
I thought he was off the team. I thought he was going to be off the team.
Hurt all year. And listen, I said the same thing. Miles Murphy was definitely going to take a lot away from playing with Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
You look at him at the beginning of the year versus the last 4 or 5 weeks of the year, completely different player. So I expect him to make another stride this year. I'm not down on the fact that it was a pick. I'm saying we don't have that privilege in this first round.
We don't have that privilege anymore, I should say.
With the offensive line, defensive line, and wide receiver talent that's in this draft, we don't have that.
Yeah.
We don't have that luxury.
We don't have that luxury at all. Like example, because we did have that luxury. But again, like when you see Dax Hill really not kind of catching up to speed on everything, I expect him to get better coming into this season. But he was supposed to be that way this past season. Let me ask you guys this question. Who was the Kansas City Chiefs first round pick last year in last year's draft?
I don't even know.
Rashee Rice was second round.
Mm-hmm. Oh, second round maybe, or a third round. One of those two. You guys don't remember, do you?
No.
Uh-uh.
Felix, he has a hyphenated last name, but Felix something Uzoma. I thought it was CJ Uzoma's cousin or something because it was the same last name.
Yeah.
But
what position does he play?
Defensive end, I believe, or whatnot. He's on the D line. But they didn't really get no kind of use out of him this past season because and it was one of those luxury draft picks that you can build towards the future. But the name that you kept hearing the most, I was waiting for one of y'all to say George Karlaftis. I'm like, nope, that was actually
that was the year before.
That was the year before. So with that being said, they had the privilege and understanding that this is going to probably be a future investment post the Chris Jones era and stuff like that. And then somebody's got to, take ownership and develop a little bit quicker, or develop a year a little bit later after we leave or Chris Jones going to free. And plus they're winning championships. And quite frankly, I'm not saying that we need to mimic their rebuild, but to your point, that's what we were able to do the last 2 seasons. But this past season showed that this year we do not have that luxury anymore. We have to hit on this draft pick in late round draft picks too. So yeah, like Miles Murphy, this is it for you. You got to grow up now. Dax Hill, this is it for you. You got to grow up now. Like we don't have time to be sitting around knitting blankets for guys to develop anymore. Now, it's either if you're not working out, you got to cut your losses and move on. Try to get whatever value, recoup what you can from them, and try again sometime, in a different way. So, but that's to add on to your point.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely because if you look at not last year's was it last year's draft or the draft before when we got DJ Turner and
Last year.
Year's draft.
DJ Turner and Dax Hill and we didn't see DJ Ivy on the field besides that ending of the season. Then he got hurt, and then that's it. I understand what the Bengals are trying to do, but like you said, and I agree with you 110% on this, is we got to do what we needed to do now and get this now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So one lighthearted subject here real quick before we end. We're going to let Justin take this home for us. In April, the week before the draft, April 17th, I believe it is, I will be in Cincinnati. We will be doing a live show down there at UC. I believe we're going to get set up there with myself, Chase, and Justin will be live. We'll remote Tim in from the great Pacific Northwest. But while I'm in Cincinnati, I got to take the fellas out and break some bread. So I want you guys to make some comments here on our YouTube channel. Look us up. We got our handles will be on here when we get done with this. If you need to send us something on Twitter or whatever, give us some recommendations on where to go in Cincinnati. So when listen, I'm kind of old school when it comes to Cincinnati. I've done the chili. I'm a Skyline guy. It is what it is. We're not going to do that. I do sell pizza for a living. So if you got fire pizza, this is not something you can half-ass. You got whole ass this one. I'm a pizza snob.
Yeah.
So if you're going to suggest pizza, it's got to be good, right? But listen, I'm a precinct guy. I like going to the precinct. A little pricey though. And probably not going to be in the attire and the setting that I want to be in for the precinct. I always love me some Montgomery barbecue. That's good. And man, if I'm downtown, it's a must stop. Even if it's just for an appetizer, knockback Nats, I'm getting some wings and some beer.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So those are the kind of things I like, but I eat anything. So go ahead, get your comments, suggestions, throw them out to us. I'm gonna probably be panhandling for ideas over the next couple of weeks until we get it solidified, and then then we'll let you know where we're at. Maybe you guys come down. I'll buy you a beer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we're going to
I'll be in attendance as well. So
that's right. That's right. We're going to be transition this out here. Justin, there's the Twitter handles for us if you need to hit us up. But yeah, man, I'm gonna let you. I know. I'm gonna let you take this home with this last subject matter, but I know how you like it. So we'll get it set up, teed up here for you.
Yes, sir. Bumping up some music for me.
Just like that background. So last look at this.
Your mic's
union rumors?
I am. I think we are hearing rumors. Okay, before we go into the rumors, it's no secret on Bengals Twitter that both for the last two seasons in 21 and 22, not the last, the two seasons that we went to the Super Bowl and back-to-back AFC Championship games, CJ Uzomah and Hayden Hurst were the two respective tight ends for each of those years, have both actually been released by their respective teams. CJ Uzomah, after our Super Bowl run, signed a 3-year deal with the Jets. Then Hayden Hurst signed a 3-year deal with the Panthers after our 2022 run. Both of them have been cut to save as cap casualties for their teams. So now, this is the rumors edition. This is going to be a nice little fun one because everybody's been talking on Twitter and it's been picking up a lot of steam about who would you want to bring back to Cincinnati. You got CJ Uzomah or you got Hayden Hurst. Both guys actually brought a lot of energy and a lot of passion. CJ Uzomah in 2021, he was kind of like the the campaign manager for the Why Not Us slogan. He was the one that kind of implemented that during the training camp, during the offseason of that season where everybody was picking us to finish last in the division. You know, his tight end targets, he already had played with us since 2015 prior to that, but he never really had any cachet to his name until Joe Burrow got there and made him better. And he made him a viable tight end threat. His numbers were not as eye-gazing or eye-popping, but he made a few big plays. The more specific play was I think the game-clinching or game-tying touchdown catch that he made on that Thursday night game against the Jaguars. I will never forget that. He also made the game-clinching pass that put him in field goal range to get them the win, to put us in 3-1 on the year. It was a lot of great things that C.J. Uzomah brought as far as energetic perspective. Again, and he also called Joe Burrow's first playoff touchdown pass. Fun fact. Now we move to Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst replaced C.J. Uzomah after he left for free agency in 2022. Now, Hayden Hurst played like he also brought a different level of energy. He wasn't the rah-rah guy, getting guys huddled up and whatnot. He saw what the Bengals already did, and he just added his own energetic version to it. He just played like a man possessed, and he took matchups very seriously. Again, his numbers weren't that stargazing as well neither. But so my question to you guys, in the perfect situation, both of them are cleared to play. No health concerns or anything like that. They're both medically cleared to play, because I know both of them have medical issues coming off of their past seasons this past year. Who would you rather go with? Tim, we'll start with you, and Brandon, we're going to float it back to you. Would you take C.J. Uzomah for a one-year deal, or would you take Hayden Hurst for a one-year deal?
I got my mixed feelings about all this. I liked Uzomah. I liked Hayden Hurst. I remember when Hayden Hurst was healthy and playing for the Bengals, and because I know he only played like 13 games when he was with us that one season. But like my biggest concerns is, even though they're being clear or whatever, Hayden Hurst, he suffered a post-traumatic amnesia. They don't even know if he's going to return back to the NFL. But if he's got a clear bill of health and he does come back to football, I'm going to lean towards Hayden Hurst. He's 30 years old. In those 13 games, he had 52 receptions, 414 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns with us when he was with us. Uzomah had 49 receptions, 493 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 16 games, including the playoffs. Uzomah, I love him. He's a great cheerleader. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. He was a big cheerleader for Joe Burrow as well. Hayden Hurst was to me, he's more physical. He's more physical. He can break tackles. Uzomah's more of that slot tight end, can hurry up and get out there and, get open and get a 40-yard pass over the middle. But I'm going to go with Hayden Hurst. He's got a year. He's a year younger than Uzomah. Uzomah only had 8 receptions last year. I know he had an injury as well. And he was with the Jets. His year before that, he only had 21 receptions. So, it's a Jets thing. So I'm not going to hold that against him. But like I said, I'm still going with Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, the stats are pretty close. I don't think either one of these guys are taking the top off the defense. Both of them, though, are kind of what the Bengals are kind of stereotyped, wanting someone that can come in line, block, and get out and catch some passes. So I got Tanner Hudson is who I would try to bring back if I could. We'll see if that happens. And then I would put him with C.J. Uzomah. And the reason why I say C.J. Uzomah over Hayden Hurst, obviously taking injury out of it and everything like that. 2015 to 2021. C.J. Uzomah knows what it's like to be a Cincinnati Bengal. He went through some of those tough times and those hard times. And I think that it mean a little bit more to him I think that kind of emotional leader and support, and like you said, coming up, the guy that came up with the slogan "Why not us?" I still have a T-shirt. So I think he exemplifies what the Bengals need and how they made that changeover and that run. And he got 1 year with the guy that was that changed what our franchise was. I'd like to give him at least 1 or 2 more. I'd say CJ Uzomah.
All right, so we got a split. I'll be the decider here. For me, it's Hayden Hurst. I got to go with Double H. I wish I don't know what his middle initial is, and if it starts with an H, then he's Triple H. But I got to go with Hayden Hurst here. You did mention about CJ Uzomah, really being a leader and kind of establishing the what it means to be a Bengal. In this new Joe Burrow regime era of what it means to be a Bengal, it's a tough, hungry, accountable teammate that's going to do whatever it takes to get the job done. That's also Hayden Hurst. He may not be very as vocal about it, but he shows it with his intensity about it. As I mentioned before, he's like a guy that plays like a man possessed on the field. But I also think it's funny that both guys got paid big time money after playing with Joe Burrow, and now they're cut 2 years. Well, CJ Uzomah got cut 2 years into his deal. Hayden Hurst cut after his first year in his deal. Obviously, they signed big lucrative contracts with these teams that were trying to build something that the Bengals had already built. They literally tried to copy the formula that the Bengals did, and it just didn't work out that way. Also, I think Von Bell might be getting cut too from the Panthers. But I'm going with Hayden Hurst simply because he plays like a guy that I call it the street fight theory. When it comes to these big brawls in the AFC North, you got to have some dogs that ain't scared to get in the face of these other opponents and their players. Hayden Hurst sort of fits that billing for me, where I don't know if CJ Uzomah would. Now, he ain't gonna be scared to get in nobody's face. I ain't saying that. Come on, man, you playing a gladiator sport. But when I'm thinking of a dog, I'm thinking of a dog that's gonna be like, I'm ready to rock your stuff, like throw a fist in your face if it comes down to it. That Monday night game against the Bills, the game that was never played because of the DeMar Hamlin situation, I believe that would have been Hayden Hurst's breakout night that night. He also broke out and caught a touchdown pass against the Bills in the playoffs, and it just feels like that he has like this he plays with an edge, and that's what you need on his team. The game when we beat the Chiefs in 2022, when we played them in the regular season, Justin Reed kind of ran his mouth because he really didn't do his homework about our players. He was kind of going off with this, I'm just going to lock them down. He didn't know who he was talking about. But then he wanted to double back and then try to make comments like, I really was talking about Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst was like, you don't want to talk trash to me. I got a deep catalog in the memory, and I won't forget this. It was a shame, man, because he was ready to go ape crazy on those guys, bro. And then obviously the ankle injury got hurt. He was sidelined for, I think, the rest of the games. We still won with Mitchell Wilcox playing, but nonetheless, Hayden Hurst was out there, was like, I'm serious. Throw me the ball. I'm gonna kill him. Like he has that mentality. He wears it on his face every time. And I love that about a player, especially at that position, man. So that's the reason why I go Hayden Hurst. But both of them will be really good, nice reunion additions. But what you can't do this time around is make them tight end one on this team. You got to morph past this, okay? Like, let's say that if we sign the CJ Uzomah, he's coming in on a cheap deal, number one, coming off of his injury too. But you are still drafting Brock Bowers if he's there. You are still signing another guy like a Noah Fant in free agency to add an element of explosion. Oh, and I'm still bringing back Tanner Hudson too. I need a collection pool of these guys. Mm-hmm. And whether if you interchange CJ or Hayden Hurst, it doesn't matter. I'm still taking the route of going the Bowers way if it's still eligible and it's still there and if it makes sense. Same thing with adding another free agency, and then that way you can make them all be better. So that's why I go with Hayden Hurst, man. But I wouldn't be mad at either one. But if you're talking about adding an element of a dimension of a mean streak, Hayden Hurst also, when I think of, the 2022 Bengals, the you got to play us Bengals, not the why not us Bengals, the you got to play us Bengals. Hayden Hurst is one of those people that kind of helped build that phrase. So that's where I'm going.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. Justin Lacey has just dropped this. CJ Uzama cannot fight. He wants to see him in the streets. That's what I heard from Mr. Justin Lacey. Make sure you tweet this out to CJ Uzama if you know him.
I'm tagging CJ. I'm tagging him.
There we go.
Hey, sorry, Justin.
Clip this out of shorts on YouTube. Look for it coming soon. All kidding aside.
Not true, CJ. I love you, CJ. I love you, CJ. I know
Look
you
at
can
him, he's
probably
backtracking.
throw hands.
I was riding with you, CJ. You remember that. If you come back to Cincinnati, come see me. I'll do an interview. You don't have to mess with Justin.
CJ, bro.
We'll kick him out.
Bro.
We'll kick him out. But we appreciate you guys rocking with us as always. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, share us with everybody you know that's a Bengals fan. We're going to keep bringing you this content all off season, and then more things rolling out as we get closer to the season. You'll see a couple new shows. I'm in some negotiations with some new people, so we might see some new faces over here too on Running Through the Jungle. So keep an eye out for it. Always keep an eye out for Cut to the Chase. You never know when Chase is going to drop a new episode. That goes for me too. So for Justin Lacey, Tim Lyons, I'm Brandon Herriott. Catch us next week as we are running through the jungle.